Fact 50. Russia spans 11 time zones. Russia stretches across 11 time zones, more than any other country on Earth. When it's midnight in Kaliningrad, it's 11 a.m. the next day in Kamchatka. The Trans-Siberian Railway crosses 8 time zones during its 9,289-kilometer journey. Russia's east-west span exceeds the distance from New York to Los Angeles nearly 3 times over. The country covers 1/8 of Earth's inhabited land area. Russia is so vast that its eastern regions are closer to Alaska than to Moscow. Fact 49. The Sahara Desert was green. Just 6,000 years ago, the Sahara was covered in vegetation, lakes, and rivers until around 4000 BCE. Ancient rock art shows hippos, giraffes, and elephants in areas now barren sand. The transformation from savanna to desert happened over just a few centuries. Beneath the sand lie ancient riverbeds visible from satellite imagery. The Sahara proves that dramatic climate shifts can occur within human timescales. Fact 48. Australia is wider than the moon. Australia measures 4,000 kilometers from east to west, while the moon's diameter is 3,474 kilometers. Australia's width exceeds the moon's diameter by over 500 kilometers. The comparison seems absurd until you realize how small the moon actually is. Australia covers 7.69 million square kilometers of land. The continent is so large it contains multiple climate zones from tropical to temperate. Fact 47. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on Earth's surface. The Dead Sea sits 430 meters below sea level, the lowest land elevation on Earth. The lake is sinking lower each year as water evaporates. The Dead Sea is 9.6 times saltier than the ocean, making swimming impossible. You simply float. The extreme salinity allows no fish or aquatic life, hence the name. Within decades, the Dead Sea may split into separate pools. Fact 46. Mount Everest grows taller. Every year, Mount Everest rises approximately 4 millimeters annually as the Indian plate pushes into Asia. The mountain was 29,029 feet in 1953 when first summited, but now measures 29,032 feet. The Himalayas continue growing as tectonic collision continues. Earthquakes occasionally change Everest's height by centimeters in moments. The world's tallest mountain is a dynamic feature, not a fixed elevation. Fact 45. Antarctica contains 70% of Earth's freshwater. Antarctica holds approximately 26.5 million cubic kilometers of ice. If all Antarctic ice melted, global sea levels would rise 58 meters. The ice sheet averages 2,160 meters thick and reaches 4,776 meters at its deepest. Antarctica's ice represents more freshwater than all rivers, lakes, and groundwater combined. Despite having the most water, Antarctica is technically a desert with minimal precipitation. Fact 44. The Amazon River discharges more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. The Amazon discharges 209,000 cubic meters of water per second into the Atlantic. This volume exceeds the combined discharge of the Nile, Yangtze, Mississippi, Yenisei, Yellow, Abu, and Congo rivers. The Amazon accounts for 20% of all river water entering Earth's oceans. The river's freshwater plume extends 400 kilometers into the Atlantic. Fact 43. Canada has more lakes than the rest of the world combined. Canada contains over 2 million lakes, more than all other countries combined. These lakes cover 9% of Canada's total land area. Ontario alone has 250,000 lakes, more than most countries entirely. Most Canadian lakes remain unnamed due to their sheer number. Canada's lake density results from glacial scouring during the Ice Age. Fact 42. The Pacific Ocean is bigger than all land on Earth. The Pacific Ocean covers 165.2 million square kilometers, exceeding Earth's entire land area. The ocean is larger than all continents and islands combined. You could fit all 7 continents inside the Pacific with room remaining. The ocean's average depth is 4,280 meters, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Fact 41. Iceland is being torn apart by tectonic forces. Iceland sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge where tectonic plates diverge. The island is literally being pulled apart at 2.5 centimeters per year. The Rift Valley through Thingvellir National Park shows the separation clearly. Iceland grows wider annually as new crust forms from volcanic activity. You can stand with 1 foot on the North American plate and 1 on the Eurasian plate. Fact 40. The Mariana Trench could swallow Mount Everest. The Mariana Trench reaches 10,994 meters deep, nearly 2,000 meters deeper than Everest is tall. If you placed Everest at the bottom, its peak would still be 2 kilometers underwater. The pressure at the bottom exceeds 1,000 times atmospheric pressure at sea level. Only 4 people have reached the bottom, fewer than have walked on the moon. If you're shocked by these facts, hit subscribe. There's more coming. Fact 39. Africa is splitting apart. The East African Rift is actively splitting Africa into 2 landmasses. The rift extends 3,000 kilometers from the Red Sea to Mozambique. Tectonic forces are pulling the Somali Plate away from the Nubian Plate. In 50 million years, East Africa will separate, creating a new ocean. The rift is widening at rates of 6 to 7 millimeters per year. Fact 38. Bangladesh is mostly below 10 meters elevation. Bangladesh sits almost entirely on a river delta, less than 10 meters above sea level. Over 160 million people live on land, vulnerable to inundation. The Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers converge in Bangladesh. Climate change threatens to displace tens of millions from Bangladesh. Fact 37. The Caspian Sea is actually a lake. The Caspian Sea is the world's largest lake, covering 371,000 square kilometers. Despite its name, it's completely landlocked with no connection to oceans. The Caspian is larger than Germany and contains more water than all the Great Lakes combined. The lake sits 28 meters below sea level. Fact 36. The Atacama Desert has places with no recorded rainfall. Some Atacama Desert valleys have no recorded rainfall in over 400 years. Certain areas may not have received rain in millions of years. The desert is so dry that NASA tests Mars rovers there. The Atacama sits between the Andes and Chilean Coast Range, creating a double rain shadow. Fact 35. Greenland's ice sheet is 2 miles thick. Greenland's ice sheet reaches maximum depths exceeding 10,000 feet. The ice covers 80% of Greenland's land area. If Greenland's ice melted, sea levels would rise 7.4 meters. Greenland is losing 280 billion tons of ice annually. The melting accelerates each year as temperatures rise. Fact 34. The Nile flows north. The Nile is one of the few major rivers flowing north to the Mediterranean. The river flows 6,650 kilometers from Lake Victoria to the Mediterranean. The Nile has two major tributaries, the White Nile and Blue Nile. Ancient Egyptian civilization depended entirely on the Nile's annual floods. Fact 33. Point Nemo is 1,670 miles from any land. Point Nemo in the Pacific Ocean is the most remote location on Earth's surface. The nearest land is 2,688 kilometers away in any direction. The closest humans are often astronauts aboard the ISS passing overhead. Point Nemo serves as a spacecraft cemetery where defunct satellites crash. Fact 32. The Great Barrier Reef is visible from space. The Great Barrier Reef spans 2,300 kilometers along Australia's northeast coast. The reef is the largest living structure on Earth. The reef contains 2,900 individual reefs and 900 islands. The reef is dying rapidly from warming waters and ocean acidification. Fact 31. Norway's coastline is longer than Earth's circumference. Norway's coastline measures 100,915 kilometers when including all islands and fjords. Earth's equatorial circumference is only 40,075 kilometers. Norway's coastline exceeds Earth's circumference by more than double. The extreme measurement results from thousands of islands and deeply indented fjords. Fact 30. Lake Baikal contains more water than the Great Lakes combined. Lake Baikal in Russia is the world's deepest lake at 1,642 meters. The lake contains 23,615 cubic kilometers of water. Baikal holds more water than all 5 Great Lakes combined. The lake is over 25 million years old, Earth's oldest lake. Fact 29. The Netherlands exists largely below sea level. Approximately 26% of the Netherlands sits below sea level. Over 60% of the population lives in areas vulnerable to flooding. Without flood defenses, much of the Netherlands would be underwater. Amsterdam sits 2 meters below sea level, protected only by engineering. Fact 28. Mount Kilimanjaro's glaciers are disappearing. Kilimanjaro's glaciers have shrunk by 85% since 1912. The glaciers may disappear entirely by the 2030s. The loss results from reduced snowfall and warming temperatures. The glaciers persist despite being just 3 degrees from the equator. Fact 27. The Amazon rainforest produces its own rain. The Amazon generates approximately half of its own rainfall through evapotranspiration. Trees release water vapor that forms clouds and rain. Deforestation disrupts this cycle, reducing rainfall. The forest's self-sustaining water cycle covers an area larger than Western Europe. Fact 26. Japan sits on 4 tectonic plates. Japan exists where the Pacific, Philippine Sea, Eurasian, and North American plates meet. The country experiences over 1,500 earthquakes annually. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake shifted Japan's main island 8 feet east. Japan exists on one of Earth's most geologically active locations. Fact 25. The Himalayas were once ocean floor. The Himalayas formed when the Indian plate collided with Asia 50 million years ago. The mountains contain marine fossils from the Tethys Ocean. Mount Everest's summit contains rocks that were underwater. The collision continues, making the Himalayas Earth's youngest major mountain range. If you've made it this far, subscribe and turn on notifications. Fact 24. Madagascar broke off from India, not Africa. Madagascar separated from India 88 million years ago, not from Africa. The island's unique species evolved in isolation after the split. Lemurs and other endemic species are more related to Asian animals than African. Madagascar sits on the African plate now but shares geological history with India. Fact 23. The Sahara expands and contracts. The Sahara grows and shrinks in cycles driven by Earth's orbital variations. The desert expanded 10% in the past century alone. Climate change is accelerating Sahara expansion southward. The desert's size fluctuates over decades to millennia. Fact 22. New Zealand is part of a submerged continent. Zealandia is a mostly submerged continent spanning 4.9 million square kilometers. Only 6% of Zealandia remains above water, as New Zealand and New Caledonia. The continent broke off from Australia 85 million years ago and sank. Zealandia was officially recognized as Earth's 8th continent in 2017. Fact 21. The Alps are younger than the Himalayas. The Alps began forming 65 million years ago, younger than the Himalayas. The mountains result from Africa pushing northward into Europe. The Alps are still rising at 1 to 2 millimeters per year. The range contains over 100 peaks exceeding 4,000 meters. Fact 20. Angel Falls drops 979 meters in one plunge. Angel Falls in Venezuela is the world's tallest uninterrupted waterfall. The falls drop 979 meters from Ollantaytambo Plateau. Water often evaporates into mist before reaching the bottom. The waterfall is 19 times taller than Niagara Falls. Fact 19. The Ring of Fire contains 75% of Earth's volcanoes. The Ring of Fire circles the Pacific Ocean, hosting 452 volcanoes. This horseshoe-shaped zone experiences 90% of Earth's earthquakes. The ring results from Pacific plate subduction beneath surrounding plates. Countries around the Pacific face constant volcanic and seismic threats. Fact 18. Lake Vostok sits beneath 4 kilometers of Antarctic ice. Lake Vostok lies buried under 3,769 meters of Antarctic ice. The lake covers 15,690 square kilometers. The lake's water has been isolated for 15 million years. Organisms in Vostok evolved in complete darkness under extreme pressure. Fact 17. The Danube River flows through 10 countries. The Danube flows through more countries than any other river. The river passes through Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Moldova, and Ukraine. 4 capital cities sit on the Danube's banks. Fact 16. Dubai's Palm Islands are visible from space. The Palm Jumeirah is the world's largest artificial island. The palm-shaped island added 78 kilometers of coastline to Dubai. The islands were created by dredging 120 million cubic meters of sand. The palms are visible from space without magnification. Fact 15. The Aral Sea has lost 90% of its water. The Aral Sea was the world's 4th largest lake in 1960. Soviet irrigation projects diverted the rivers feeding the lake. The lake has shrunk to 10% of its original size. Former fishing ports now sit 100 kilometers from water. Fact 14. Gibraltar is connected to Africa by just 14 kilometers. The Strait of Gibraltar separates Europe from Africa by only 14 kilometers. The strait connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. Europe and Africa were connected by a land bridge during ice ages. Fact 13. The Congo River is the deepest river on Earth. The Congo River reaches depths of 220 meters, deeper than any other river. The river flows 4,700 kilometers through Central Africa. The Congo contains more water than any river except the Amazon. Fact 12. Mount Chimborazo is farthest from Earth's center. Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador is 6,384 kilometers from Earth's center. This distance exceeds Mount Everest by 2 kilometers. Earth's equatorial bulge makes equatorial mountains taller from Earth's center. Fact 11. The Volga is Europe's longest river. The Volga flows 3,530 kilometers through Russia to the Caspian Sea. The river drains 1/3 of European Russia. 11 of Russia's 20 largest cities sit on the Volga's banks. Fact 10. Lake Titicaca is the highest navigable lake. Lake Titicaca sits 3,812 meters above sea level in the Andes. The lake is the highest navigable body of water for commercial vessels. Titicaca covers 8,372 square kilometers spanning Peru and Bolivia. Fact 9. The Maldives is the flattest country on Earth. The Maldives' highest natural point is 2.4 meters above sea level. The nation consists of 1,200 coral islands in the Indian Ocean. Most of the Maldives may be uninhabitable by 2100. Fact 8. The Andes is the longest mountain range. The Andes stretches 7,000 kilometers along South America's western coast. The range passes through 7 countries from Venezuela to Chile. The Andes contains the highest peaks in the Western Hemisphere. Fact 7. The Bering Strait separates Asia and America by 82 kilometers. The Bering Strait between Russia and Alaska is just 82 kilometers wide. During ice ages, the strait was a land bridge called Beringia. Humans first reached America by crossing this bridge. Fact 6. The Mississippi-Missouri River system is 6,275 kilometers long. The combined Mississippi-Missouri system is North America's longest river. The river drains 40% of the continental United States. The Mississippi carries 500 million tons of sediment annually. Fact 5. The Gobi Desert expands 3,600 square kilometers annually. The Gobi Desert grows by 3,600 square kilometers each year. Desertification is accelerating due to overgrazing and climate change. The desert now covers 1.3 million square kilometers. Fact 4. The Strait of Hormuz controls 21% of global oil. The Strait of Hormuz is just 39 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Over 21 million barrels of oil pass through daily. Closure of Hormuz would devastate global energy markets. Fact 3. The Indonesian archipelago contains 17,000 islands. Indonesia consists of 17,508 islands, spanning 5,120 kilometers. Only 6,000 islands are inhabited. The archipelago sits on the Ring of Fire with 127 active volcanoes. Fact 2. The Nullarbor Plain contains the world's longest straight railway. The Nullarbor Plain in Australia features the world's longest straight railway track, 478 kilometers without a curve. The name means no trees in Latin. The plain covers 200,000 square kilometers of limestone karst. Fact 1. Earth's continents are still moving. All continents drift at rates of 2 to 15 centimeters per year. Africa and South America separate by 3 centimeters annually. The Atlantic Ocean widens while the Pacific shrinks. In 250 million years, continents will merge into a new supercontinent. Continental drift continues reshaping Earth's geography. The continents you see on maps today are temporary arrangements in constant motion, with oceans opening and closing, mountains rising and eroding, and land masses drifting across the globe in a dance that will continue for billions of years. Which geography fact blew your mind? Drop a comment and subscribe.